Hello, everybody. How are you doing? It's Damon yet again with another list. And this time, after a conversation with a friend, in which case we discussed about how many how many movies come out per year, and was it time to actually catch up on some movies? And that conversation eventually evolved into knowing how many blockbusters there are per year, and the blockbusters, basically good blockbusters, and it ended up going to the movie summers. So my list today are the top 10 best movie summers, in my opinion, of all time. Now, people might say, well, Damon, I mean, 1975, there was Jaws. 1977, there was Star Wars. You weren't around there. Yeah, but I wasn't around. But I could see the list basically of movies that went out in those years in the summer of 1977, and there were many blockbusters back then. It was maybe one or two movies, and most of them, the others were smaller budgets. So the blockbusters originated in the 1975, but didn't get that big until maybe the 1990s. So I mean, it went from basically 1980, it was a star, Empire Strikes Back. 1983, there's Return of the Jedi. And we basically had also 1989, in which I think we had Ghostbusters 2, the original Batman 89. So, yeah, there was some blockbuster there, but there weren't as much. I mean, it was as well spread out through the summer. I feel like that's a trend that really started in 2000s, in which case there were more and more blockbusters. Look at the 90s. In the 90s, there were some one or two blockbusters during the summer. The rest of the year were basically the other blockbusters were spread out throughout the year. Now we mostly put it in the summer, which is good. And yeah, I'm going to list out 10, my top 10 movie summers of all time. Now, it doesn't mean because one of the greatest movies that just because based on that I'll put it on summers. No, to me it's quality and quantity, not just quantity, not just quality, quantity and quality in this case. So one great movie doesn't make a great summer. I'm looking at 2005. There was Batman Begins, there was Wedding Crashers, and there was Star Wars Episode 3. And the other movies were okay, but not something I would say I would dare remember that much, like Madagascar. They were just okay. It wasn't a bad movie summer. And coincidentally enough, I found out basically, uh, yeah, 2025, some great hit like Sinners. I like Superman. 2025, I like Fantastic Four, and I really like uh, Final Destination, Bloodlines. But Sinners came out before the summer, and I felt like a lot of movies this summer were good. But I wouldn't say they're great. They're 2025 is not a bad list. It's in the honorable mention. So this year in the summer we had F1, we have we had Superman 2025, we had Fantastic Four, we had the Naked Gun 4, we had Weapons, we had Toxic Avengers. So there was a good chunk of it, but a lot of the movies just range from pretty good and two of them being great. So to me, it's an honorable mention. Now, onto the list, the top 10. And I'm going to start out with the only tie there is right now, tie with the summer of 2023 and the summer of 2009. 2023, sure, there are plenty of movies that came out, but I wouldn't dare say that a lot of them were great. It's just the ones that were great were damn good, were damn great, and I felt like everybody else was playing catch up. Case in point, Open Oppenheimer was the movie of the year, was an awesome epic by Christopher Nolan about the life of Oppenheimer. And there was Barbie. Barbie I actually liked. I thought it was pretty funny. I thought basically I expected to be disappointed and it wasn't. It was very fun. There's uh TMNT Mutant Mayhem. I also like Meg 2, but Meg 2 was like it made me laugh. So let's be honest, it's like Jason Statham movie that was more of a comedy than anything. I will give points to The Flash because of Michael Keaton as Batman. And Mission Impossible, the Dead Reckoning Part 1, I really like too. But that's pretty much what I can remember. And honestly, apart from two of those movies being very good, the other ones were just ranging pretty good. It's still a nice try because to me, it's like in the last, holy crap, in the last basically 5 years, that's the top of the last 5 years is the top movie summers of the last 5 years. So that's a spoiler. And Thai, 2009. 2009, there was plenty of movies who I felt were worth it. The Star Trek reboot, I don't like really J.J. Abrams' directing style, but I actually like the first one. Uh, what else there were there? Drag Me to Hell was a very good movie by Sam Raimi, going back to his horror roots. We also had Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. We had my movie of the year, animated movie of the year, Up. You had Bruno. You had check my list again. You had The Hangover, evidently. You had District 9, which is a great sci-fi movie. And of course, you had perhaps my favorite movie of that year, Inglourious Bastards. In which case, Christoph Waltz broke out onto the screen and basically had this breakthrough performance. And basically, my favorite performance of Christoph Waltz there. So, that's the 2009. So you could see basically 2009, we had fantasy movie in Harry Potter 6. We had an amazing animated movie with Up. We had an horror movie with Drag Me to Hell. We had a comedy with Bruno and The Hangover. We had sci-fi with District 9 and Star Trek. And we had a Quentin Tarantino movie. See what we need in terms of summers? It's not a thing of superhero fatigue. It's one style over one genre of movie and screw everything else fatigue. People just want different type of movies. That's what it is. So that's number 10. Number 9, 2013. Now, it might not seem that much, but look at this. I'm just looking at the list. I might have forgotten some movies. I'm thinking of the movies that I remember the most of that year. What, in terms of animation, we had Monsters Inc. and Monsters University. In terms of comedy, we had Pain and Gain. We had This Is the End. We had World's End. We had a great movie in terms of sci-fi, in terms of we had Elysium. What else? Sorry, I'm just looking at my list. We had very good to pretty neat, or at least pretty good, or at least neat super movies with Iron Man 3, Wolverine, and of course, the excellent Man of Steel. What a good animation movie. I said I forgot Despicable Me 2. And yeah, I think that draws basically, unless I forgot something. Oh yeah, and another superhero movie, we had Kick-Ass 2. That's what I forgot to mention. So I had superhero movies with Iron Man 3, Kick-Ass 2, Man of Steel, Wolverine. None of them are bad. All of them I've read are really at least ranging from pretty good to great. We had comedies in Pain and Gain and This Is the End, which are both of them very good. Two animated movies, which are at least good to pretty good, in Despicable Me 2 and Monster Inc., Monster University, as well as World's End, the final chapter of the Cornetto trilogy with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. And we had the sci-fi Elysium. That's number 9. Number 8, 2019. That's right. We had plenty of good movies that year. We had the awesome, and I felt like the best volume of the series in terms of John Wick 3. I thought it's my favorite John Wick movie on this one. We had a great action movie in this one, in which John Wick is trying to basically evade the table, basically tries to get away from his hitman's past. That's awesome. That's an awesome movie. We also had a very good Pixar animated sequel to a 2004 classic, which is Incredibles 2. I didn't think it was as good as the first one, but it was the same line, it's the same league, so that's great, very good there. And we had a great documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor, a great documentary about the life of Mr. Rogers. And so I was very fascinated by that. What an utter, oh, sorry. I basically mistook this. So that was I mistook it, sorry. 2019. 2019, we had John Wick 3. Sorry, I messed up this entry in the next one. So John Wick 3, so there was John Wick 3. So, and afterwards, in terms of action movies, what else we have? Uh, we had John Wick 3. We had Once Upon a Time in Hollywood from Quentin Tarantino, which is an awesome movie. And I thought that Brad Pitt was basically the coolest thing in the whole movie. You were always riveted to everything Brad Pitt did in the movie. We had great, good to great superhero movies that year. We had Avengers Endgame eventually. We had Spider-Man Far From Home, and we had Shazam. What a great biographical movie in Rocket Man. What a fun horror movie in Ma. And a great animated movie in Toy Story 4. So, with John Wick 3 at Avengers Endgame, Shazam, Rocket Man, Ma, Toy Story 4, Spider-Man Far From Home, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Sorry there. So that was 2019. 2007, I spoiled it by my mistake before. It's 2018, the year before. Sure, you had Incredibles 2, which is an amazing sequel to the unforgettable Incredibles. But it's not the only animated movie you had that year. You also had Teen Titans Go to the Movie, which is a great meta comedy there. So those are two movies I like. Again, the documentary about Won't You Be My Neighbor from Mr. Rogers. But that's just it. That's not just it. You had the awesome my horror movie of the year in Hereditary. That's a movie that will freak you out if you ever see it. You have Mission Impossible Fallout, which to me is the best Mission Impossible movie. Uh, you had the great drama in Black Klansman. You had the awesome action movie with Denzel Washington, Equalizer 2, which I still feel is the best of the bunch. And in terms of superhero movie, you had Avengers Infinity War and you had Deadpool 2. So to recap, I mean, all the greatness you had for that year. In terms of superhero movies, you had Avengers Infinity War, you had Deadpool 2. In terms of animated movie, you had Incredibles 2. Documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor? In terms of horror, you had Hereditary. Action movie, you had Mission Impossible Fallout, as well as Equalizer 2, and you had the action drama in Black Klansman. Now, number six. Number six dates back to way around the 21 years ago, which dates me and everybody else, which makes me sigh right now. It's 2004. The summer of 2004 had a lot of classics. Sure, we're thinking about Kill Bill 2, the final volume of this great saga about the bride, in which case she wants to get revenge on everybody of her former of the Viper Squad and take back her daughter. That's awesome. It was a great movie there. We also had, in terms of sequel, there was Kill Bill 2. You had Shrek 2, the sequel to the 2001 animated classic, and I thought Shrek 2 is the best of the bunch. It's still a movie that, to me, 21 years later, I still treasure. And speaking of sequel, we had Spider-Man 2, which to me still stands to me as the best Spider-Man movie besides No Way Home. And this one did not do it with a multiverse. It did it basically with the main characters. I felt like basically it's a very emotional movie. The ending should have been the end of the trilogy. Tobey Maguire is a great Spider-Man. Alfred Molina, great Dr. Octopus. And yeah, that's for superhero movies there and sequels. You also had the epic called Day After Tomorrow, which might not be the greatest Roland Emmerich movie. I still prefer Independence Day 1, but still very entertaining. And then you had the comedies. You had Anchorman. You had Dodgeball. You had Errol and Kumar. Anchorman is a classic that can be easily quotable, as well as Dodgeball. Errol Kumar was very fun and very good satire of society, or basically uh, society in general. You also had the underrated Michael Mann action thriller Collateral, in which case Tom Cruise plays Vincent, who was a hitman. He plays the bad guy in the movie, and I thought he goes so against type that I actually loved that movie. You had the sci-fi I, Robot with Will Smith, and you had Alien versus Predator. The first one is good, the second one is trash. So to recap, 2004, the summer of 2004 saw one great superhero movie in Spider-Man 2, one great action, I would say, martial art epic in Kill Bill 2. You had one great animated movie in Shrek 2. You had an epic movie Day After Tomorrow. You had three great comedies in Anchorman, Aaron Kumar, Dodgeball. You had an action thriller in Collateral. You had an horror in Alien vs. Predator, and you had sci-fi with I, Robot. That's like a buffet. Now you can understand what I see. I mean by a great movie, summer movie is a movie. Sorry, a great movie summer is where different kind of very good movies, but different genres are touched upon. So that's basically my number six. Number five is the summer of 2010. You had the brainy, cerebral action movie Inception, which is deeper, which can be seen as the literal sense, but it also can be deeper if you make it to be. And it's a great movie, and it just solidified to me that Leonardo DiCaprio rarely does bad movies. That's Inception. You also had, in terms of you also had other great action movies as Predators, Expendables. Uh, you also had A-Team. Again, A-Team's not great, but I watched the movie, and if it was on TV, I'd watch it again. So that's what it is. You also had great comedies in Scott Pilgrim and the other guys, as well. Get Him to Greek, which, yeah. Uh, you also had two animated classics in Toy Story 3 and Despicable Me, and you had Machete. I mean, three of my favorite movies of all time. Three of my three of my favorite movies of all time came out that summer. In Inception, Scott Pilgrim, and Toy Story 3. That says something. I mean, look at the different type of movies there, and it's like this is why it's one of my favorite movies, summer movie. Again, sorry, it's one of my favorite movies summer. Sorry. So Inception with action sci-fi. In terms of comedies, you had Get Him to Greek, Scott Pilgrim, Get Him to Other Guys. In terms of action-packed movies, you have Expendables, Predators, Machete at A-Team, and you have animation in terms of Toy Story 3 and Despicable Me. Number four is 2014. Might not seem like much, but again, a great buffet movie in this case. You had the sci-fi classic of Edge of Tomorrow, in which case Tom Cruise plays a soldier who gets killed repeatedly, is forced to relive the same day over and over again. You have 20 in terms of you also have 22 Jump Street, which is a hilarious comedy and a hilarious sequel, the first one that came out in 2012. In which case, in this case, rather than infiltrating high school, they have to infiltrate a college. So, what else? I'm just looking at my list. You also had, in terms of action movie, you had Expendables 3, which is still very good there. Not as good as the first two, but still pretty good. And Mel Gibson played a great bad guy in that. You had The Million Ways to Die in the West, which is pretty good. Which I'm looking at what else. You had great, you had three great superhero movies. None of them missed. You had Guardians of the Galaxy 1, X-Men Days of Future Past, you have Captain America Winter Soldier. What more do you want that's for that summer? That's number four. Now we're getting the top three. Now, number three is the most recent of the top three. It's 2017. I'm looking at this, and again, another movie, another summer movie, in which case I see great movies. Yeah, Wonder Woman, which is still one of my favorite movies of all time. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, in which case I felt like it's not my favorite Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but it's very good. And that's James Gunn at his best. Not Superman 2025. Guardians of the Galaxy is where he says his best. And yet Spider-Man Homecoming, which is great done by a great job by Tom Holland. And honestly, I felt like Michael Keaton, his turn as the Vulture, which I felt was like a reverse Bruce Wayne, was excellent. So those are three great movies. Sure, you had a fast food car chase movie in Fate of the Furious, which I'll be honest with you, they're very to me they're very entertaining, but I don't look at anything else beside that. I mean, I don't look at those movies to basically be brainy movie. I just look at this as okay, these are movies that entertain me. You also had Baby Driver, which is good. You had Despicable Me 3 in terms of anime movie, but you also had an action-packed movie, Atomic Blonde, with Charlie Theron, in which case she plays an ass-kicking secret agent, and it's very, very good. And of course, you had the Christopher Nolan war epic, Dunkirk. I mean, three great superhero movies in Wonder Woman, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Spider-Man Homecoming. You had Dunkirk, a war epic. You had basically an action-packed thriller in Atomic Blonde. You had great animated movie in Despicable Me 3. You had you had car chase movies in Fate of the Furious and Baby Driver. So that's number three. Number two, 2012. Now, I know people who know me will know that the first movie I'll mention is the first one I'll tell you right now is The Dark Knight Rises. I adore that movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But if it was just that movie for that summer, then that summer I'm going to consider a great movie summer. What makes it a great movie summer is every other movie that joins that list. Sure, you had the Dark Knight Rises, that awesome movie. I don't need to summarize it. You probably saw it, so I don't need to summarize. But you also had the first Marvel Avengers. Yes, I put it on the overrated list, but I still enjoyed and appreciate it for what it is. Same summer movie. Two big time movies, and boy oh boy, just look at the box office these two movies did back then. They wrecked havoc in the box office. Just those two movies. But that's not all. That's not the only two movies I remember that I really enjoyed that summer. Men in Black 3. Men in Black 2 was underwhelming, kind of disappointing, not bad, but disappointing. Men in Black 3 not only did redeem itself, but I felt like it's just went back to the league of the first one. And it ended that trilogy great. We're going to forget about Men in Black International. I'm talking about the original trilogy. It ended it great. Now, you also have, I know it's in September, but it's early September, Dread. I mean, the Dread movie with Carl Urban was awesome. And I'm still surprised that there's not been a sequel to it. I would love a sequel to that movie. But again, like I said, it's not just the only movie there is. There is great comedies. I can remember four of those comedies. American Reunion. I love the American Pie series, as I mentioned before. And I really like the idea of seeing Jim and the gang basically as they like 15 years since they graduated high school and several years after they got their bachelor's degree and they move on, well, around 10 years since they moved on to the real world. So I really like that. I also think the five-year engagement was a really underrated comedy as well. The Campaign, it's a Will Ferrell movie. And yeah, it's not his best Will Ferrell movie, but it's still very entertaining. It was very fun. And of course, Ted. The first Ted was hilarious. I mean, all the stupid stuff that comes out of basically Ted and John Bennett's played by Mark Wahlberg in the movie is still making me laugh to this day. And again, that's not all. You also had great animated movies in Madagascar 3 and Brave. and as well as Ice Age 4. You also saw a good parody movie in Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which is still kind of ridiculous, but it was action packed in the moment it needed to be. You had a good horror movie in Cabin in the Woods. You had Prometheus, and a good action movie in Expendables 2. Look at this. Again, a great buffet in terms of superhero movies at Dark Knight Rises. You had Avengers. You had Dread. You had comedies in terms of American Reunion, 5 Year Engagement, Ted, Campaign. You had sci-fi movie in terms of Men in Black 3 and Prometheus. You could say also Abe Lincoln and Vampire Hunter. You had animated movies in terms of Madagascar 3, Brave, and Ice Age 4, and a good action movie in Expendables 2. I didn't say it was great, but still memorable. But now, number one movie summer to me is undeniably 2008. Again, The Dark Knight. What else can we say about that movie? It's a classic, just like The Godfather is a classic, just like Goodfellas is a classic. It's like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a classic. Me telling you the synopsis of the movie isn't going to change anything. You know what it is. But it's not just that movie. Again, if it was just The Dark Knight, it would be a great movie, but not a great summer movie. It'd be a great movie, sorry, but not a great movie summer. Look at the other movies that are situated in the same summer. Yet Iron Man 1, the movie that kickstarted the Marvel Universe, and is still one of the best Marvel movie to date. That movie is so damn important. And Robert Downey Jr. played to me the role of his life. And we mentioned all about Robert Downey Jr., but let's put also credit to Jeff Bridges. He took a generic villain and made it memorable. Man, every time he's on screen, he made it memorable, and he didn't have to. But again, that's not the only. Those aren't the only two movies. They're not only the two. They're not. They're not even the only two super movies that year that I really liked in that summer. Yet Hellboy 2: The Golden Army, I really like that, and I felt like I'd rather have a continuation of that Hellboy than any remake of this. Well, why can't we have Hellboy 3 with Guillermo del Toro young? And there's the Incredible Hulk. Sure, is the bottom four of those four, but still, looking back, Incredible Hulk was not bad. It was pretty good. It wasn't great, but hey, follow those movies. Follow those three other movies. See where it goes. The fact it's number four is still pretty good. You also had an awesome animation Pixar movie in Wall-E, and Universal replied with Kung Fu Panda. Wall-E and Kung Fu Panda, the same movie summer. Great movies. Let's not forget about comedies. Oh boy, is there comedies. You had Pineapple Express, which is still very funny at this point. Yet Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which is an underrated movie with Jason Segel. It's a very good romantic comedy. And I really like how it's done. It's something that's not mentioned enough. You had Step Brothers, which has a lot of hilarious lines, and I know it's not the best Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly movie, but it's still very good. And of course, you had Tropic Thunder. What can I say about Tropic Thunder? I mean, Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Cruise steal the show on this one. It's a damn good comedy, and it's a damn one that makes fun of Hollywood and all basically is obsession about method acting and everything there. So again, summarizing for 2008, what great superhero movie in Dark Knight, Iron Man, Hellboy 2, and a good movie in Incredible Hulk. What great comedies in terms of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Step Brothers, Pineapple Express, and Tropic Thunder. What two great animated movies in Wall-E and Kung Fu Panda. And yeah. And if you want adventure, you had Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and the Mummy Tree, which again weren't great, but still they were there. So all in all, 2008 remains my favorite movie summer of all time. Let me know in your comments below what do you think are the best movie summers of all time. On that note, take care, guys. Bye.